Hi, I'm Frankie Picasso, co-founder of G Woman Media. In our G Woman magazine, Gutsy Issue, 6 extraordinary women share the boldest, bravest decisions they've ever made, moments that changed the trajectory of their lives. But a few lines in print can never hold the full story. So we invited each woman to join us here, face to face, to go deeper into the risk, the courage, the fear, the power, and the transformation behind their gutsy moment. This is the Gutsy Six interview expanded, where the women behind the quotes come alive in a G Woman Media original. So, welcome to the Gutsy Six Interviews Expanded, a G Woman Media original. Today, we're spotlighting a woman whose courage began long before her career. She's a leader whose choices challenge deeply rooted systems, long held beliefs to redefine what integrity, equality, and purpose looks like in action. Rachita Sharma is a technology entrepreneur, a financial literacy advocate, a gender rights activist. She's also the CEO and co-founder of Girl Power Talk, a global platform empowering women and girls through education, leadership, and economic opportunity. She also serves as the Chief Marketing Officer for Blue Ocean Global Technology, where she leads corporate communications, client engagement, and new business development. Rachita is a woman who embodies strategic boldness and heart-centered leadership. She's a visionary thinker and a builder of ecosystems, someone who doesn't just adapt to change, she creates it. So whether she's unlocking potential in others, steering transformational initiatives, or dismantling barriers with precision and purpose, her approach is rooted in unwavering integrity, fierce compassion, and a relentless commitment to excellence. So Rachita, welcome. I want to
Thank you,
remind you,
Frankie.
thank you. I just want to remind everybody what you wrote in the G Woman Media Gutsy magazine issue. You shared a deeply personal story of courage. You wrote, I was 13 when I received my high school enrollment form. Without telling anyone, I dropped my last name. Growing up in India, I could not accept that someone's worth should be judged by the family they were born into. If you cannot challenge injustice, especially when you benefit from privilege, then talking about changing the world is empty. You also wrote, a gutsy decision was choosing entrepreneurship over the safer path of multinational companies or big four firms. So while many of my peers pursued stability, I chose uncertainty. Building and scaling Girl Power Talk has been one of the most risky, challenging, and rewarding decisions of my life. So today, Rachita, we're going to go a little bit deeper into those moments.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad to be here, Frankie, and sharing this platform with you. I love the work you do, and especially when you reached out and said, you needed a comment on a story that you're doing on Gutsy Women. I'm like, that sounds like women like us. And yeah, I'm more than happy to be here and looking forward to our conversation because they're always meaningful and fun.
Thank you so much. So take us back to that first gutsy decision. You're 13 years old, you dropped your last name. What did you understand then about justice, identity, courage that most adults today are still grappling with?
That's always surprising because I think I don't even recall if I ever thought about it so much and I sat on it that why I'm doing it and it is fighting social injustice. And today, when I look back at it, and I've had friends and colleagues along the way who have said, "Oh, that was you like really realizing something so prominent, something so important that we it took us so much longer." But for me, in the moment, as a kid, I knew that there's something that's wrong and there's something that's right, and I'm gonna side with what I believe is right. So even if I did not know the intricacies and complexity of the caste system, which again, if people know about India, they understand the caste discrimination is how perhaps in United States we talk about racism. In India, that's casteism for us. But for me, I knew that if I'm being told that I'm not supposed to sit with somebody, I'm not supposed to share, my lunch with certain people because they have certain last name, there's something wrong with it. And I think that's why I am doing what I'm doing today, Frankie, because I knew that whatever I do, I need to make sure that I'm at peace with my decisions. I'm able to go to bed knowing that I made a choice that was fair, I made a choice that was humane, and I made a choice that was right. So at that point, I didn't have much going on in my mind. I just wanted to stand up against what I see as a kid around, that no, there should not be, this particular section of my classmates that should be discriminated in a certain way. Or if there are, in India, it's pretty much, I would say, very common to have house help, and how sometimes they are treated, versus like you cannot eat from the same, if you're like making food and serving them, like this separate set of utensils you keep for them to use, or
Oh,
separate set
wow.
of cups that they drink coffee in, because you don't want it to be mixed. And that's a practice, unfortunately, a lot of house still practice, even if they love the help that they have in their house, and they treat them like as extended family members, they would still separate out the utensils.
So they have to
So
go to a
I
different
wanted to,
bathroom as well?
no, I mean, maybe, of course, sure, in some households that would be true. In our household, that hasn't happened. But also it depends. Sometimes you have these help who come for only, 30 minutes to 45 minutes, do your work, and then they leave. There's
Right.
some that, stay throughout the day. So they, of course, need bathrooms. But yes, that's also very common. I have heard about it. I've seen that at people's
Wow.
houses, that there is an outside bathroom that they have to use. But especially for, the common dishes, they separate out the cups. And so when I see that, I'm like, that is not right. One human being
That's
should
like a
not
different
be
kind of
treated,
kosher. I
yeah,
haven't heard that one.
differently than others. So
Yeah.
that's where that decision stems from.
And I'm guessing that you weren't allowed or probably didn't sit around the dinner table and discuss any of this with your parents.
Oh, absolutely not. The funniest thing is my mom was the teacher in the same school. So
Ah,
she used to work in admin and office staff. So once my enrollment was done and everything was done, she gets my form, and one of the colleagues points out, like, oh, by the way, Rachita only has Rachita, her name registered. There's no last name. And that's where my mom came to know, like, from a colleague, after the enrollment was done. We never discussed things at the dinner table, apparently. We do that now, but not growing up.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so you also mentioned purpose as a driving force. So what was missing from the safer options that made building something of your own feel necessary? So I guess, why was it important for you to confront injustice from within your own privilege and this purpose, this idea of purpose and a driving force as you grew up? What was missing from being safe? I'm just going to do the big four and, have a job. No, I'm going to do my own thing. It sounds like you've always wanted to do your own thing.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do something that has more than money to offer. I did work with a few nonprofits before jumping into entrepreneurship as well. And I always say it was shocking for me to be on ground and realize that not all nonprofits really work for nonprofit, and they don't really work for the betterment of the society. So I had this very small period of, working and going to a nonprofit, and they would do things because they wanted to please the local political leader. And that's everything that they would do is just what the local political leader wanted to. If they'll show a rally and put his name up, the next day it's gone. The next day there is no water supply. So I was like, okay, things like that even happen. For me, it was a world I'm getting introduced to as an 18-year-old, as 19-year-old, that when people say that they're working for people, sometimes they're working for only certain people, and those people come from privilege and power, and everybody
Right.
tries to make amends around them. So I did understand that money, A, is very important, because you can help others, because when you have means to help others and means to help yourselves. And B, I do not want to be a part of system where I say one thing and I do another thing. So the safer option is, of course, it's your comfort zone. And I have been an avid reader. I love reading. I enjoyed reading. And one thing that always like stuck with me is like, as long as you're going to be in your comfort zone, you're not going to be really your best self, and you're not going to reach your best potential. So I knew that I have to get out of my comfort zone. And the big four, even though they sound very interesting, giving background on how it works in India, again, it's not applicable to everybody, but a large portion of population, when you're young, you're 19, you're 20, you're going to get your first job. You're going to get a lot of jobs where you don't have a decision making power, where you don't even have creative freedom. You're a part of system, you're a part of rat race. And
Right.
uh, it works for some people and they create something of their own from that, and they receive success. But the experiences that I have heard from my seniors and other people working in same kind of jobs, I didn't want to be one of those. I wanted to do something where I have the power to make decisions, but also I can see impact not in long term, but also short term that comes from my work.
That's beautiful. Okay, so the fear factor. Choosing uncertainty over stability is incredibly gutsy. So, what fears surfaced for you in that decision, if any, and how did you work through them? And was anyone adamantly opposed to you being an entrepreneur?
Everybody, Frankie, everybody was opposed to A. I have had no entrepreneur in my, I would say, in my close family. There's nobody like my parents, my uncles, my you know, first cousins. Nobody I know is an entrepreneur. So, of course, being the first in your family, and even before I became an entrepreneur, I, worked with my co-founder Samir, and we didn't have a company, we didn't have a name registered called Power Talk. We were just working towards a dream. So everybody was like, what if you get laid off in next 6 months? What if, you're not paid for next 6 months? Why are you taking, a less salary than what your college placements would offer you? So if I could go into my college and sit for one of those companies, Philips, Samsung, I was going to get, double at least paid what I started, working for. And even my parents were like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, you're going to do this for 2 years and then you realize you don't want to do it. And it would be hard for you to get into the back force again, given the unemployment rate in India, the population available. And I would say it's so funny. I would make up like things that don't exist. Like we have an office, like when my colleagues and my friends would like talk to me about, oh, so where do you go to work? I'm like, oh, I go to work there. We have an office. We did not have like any office. We were just working out of our rooms.
Yeah.
So I also think the fear part is financial insecurity for sure. Are you learning enough? Because when you are on your, I would say, way to be an entrepreneur, you self-learn. You rely on yourself to be to just know everything and to fix everything. You don't have access to immediate mentors and seniors who can guide you and whose mistake you can learn from. There are very little people whose mistake you're going to learn from. You're going to make your own mistakes. You're going to learn and you're going to make sure that when you have a team, they are not repeating those same mistakes. But apart from that, also the social environment. Like you
Mhm.
have to work by yourself. You have to be, comfortable with the loneliness, the silence that comes along with, you don't know how long it's going to take. If you're going to land your first client in the next 3 months, it's
And it's
going to
not
take
nine to
one
five
year.
work either.
Yeah, it's not 9 to 5, it's 9 to 5 and then 5 to 9. So
Yeah.
it's just a lot of those questions that happen. And especially I think when you're a young entrepreneur, the lack of friendships and social connections, because they don't get you, they don't understand you, because they don't understand why can't you just shut down on Saturday, Sunday, or why you're not out at 9 p.m. Every evening. So your friendships drift apart, and you also do not have that constant system where you have colleagues that you can talk to, and especially when you are just starting it out and you have like maybe two people that are working on building a company. So there's like emotional, financial, mental, all kind of factors that come in, and with and I would say paired with that, that nobody believes you can make it.
So I know you just spoke about this, but what did the early days of building Girl Power Talk look like? Like, how did you start? Like, where did you guys start? And what were there any realities of entrepreneurship that surprised you the most?
They still do, Frankie, like figuring out how the tax system works. I mean, getting your balance sheets, and it's just so funny because we love this name, Girl Power Talk, and we went to get, we went with it, and then someday somebody said that, oh, do you have a trademark? That's where we realized we have to trademark it. Then we're trademarking it, and then we are learning about something called a word mark. Then we need to have a word mark, because
Oh,
trademark is for a
geez.
logo, word mark is for a name. And then we go into the system to apply for that, and apparently since Girl Power is such a common name, that it's 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 just crazy to the procedure that it took for us to finally get it trademarked and wordmarked, and it took us 3 years, 4 years to get that officially done. So it's just, then from there on we knew every single thing we are going to do, we are also going to think about if when we get into the system to get it legally incorporated, how is that name gonna work? Will we get that immediately or will not get that immediately? But apart from that, yeah, the one of the first things to learn about entrepreneurship is there's no 9 to 5 and there's no weekdays and there's no weekend. Every day is a weekend and every day is a weekday. But those were like I would say, especially getting around finances, getting around the legal procedures, the incorporation. That was like no school, no college, no education system really teach you how to navigate that. You have to hire a chartered accountant, you have to hire a lawyer, you have to hire somebody who's doing your audit. The person who's doing your audits cannot be the person who files your taxes. So it's just like a lot of I would say
A
technical
big
things on the
learning
way.
curve.
A big learning curve and still goes on, trust me. It's still not done.
So when you started Girl Power Talk, how many employees did you have?
So how we started Girl Power Talk was that we basically I found two freelancers. One was a designer, one was a developer, who used to, who were trying to find work, and that's usually I used Facebook groups in local city I was to find, young people. And we found them and we asked them that, hey, we are gonna bring in projects. Why don't you 100% work with us? And we'll give you projects. We'll be a team. So we started working with these freelancers who are just exclusively working with us. Now, this is before, Frankie, we even had the name Girl Power Talk. So one thing we didn't want to do is we didn't want to rush into building something that doesn't have a strong foundation. And this is before we had the name trademark, we had a legal company. We knew this is what we are creating. We knew it will be something on the lines of women empowerment, but we did not know exact name and we did not know the exact culture model that we are going to build for this company. And human is going to be the most important resource we were going to have at this organization, so we did not want to rush into hiring people. So we had these two freelancers. Now the work started getting more than they can handle. And we told them, why don't you go and build your own company and hire talent, and we will be your exclusive partners bringing you business. So we had them start a company, register company, source people for specific tasks, and that's the office that I used to visit, do quality control, work with their team. So finally, when we started Girl Power Talk, we were three people, including co-founders, and the best talent that was at that company, which we helped build, we recruited from there. So we had like two more people that we recruited from there after working with them for 2 years, and that was pretty much the initial team of Girl Power Talk.
And today?
Today it's a big team, including everybody we have. We are 120 plus, still growing every day, but we have our own office in India, and we've built it the way we wanted to build it, with a big library and a culture at the foundation of everything we do. And yeah, it was a dream. Like sometimes you think of something and you're like, ah, so far-fetched. And then couple years down the line, it
You're
becomes
doing it.
like true, yeah. And
Wow.
I was just on an interview before this call, Frankie, and I had this girl. She's a new mother. She's an 11-month old, and she was telling me, Rachita, you know what? We are connected on Instagram. I've been following you for 3 years. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, you mean Girl Power Talk Instagram? She's like, no, no, your personal Instagram. And I messaged you once. And I'm like, I have no idea. So, 3 years ago, I wouldn't have thought somebody who she has been a producer on TV channels. She has written for feminist magazines. Like she's an incredible work experience. Somebody like that would be interested in, working with us, for us. And
For
it's
you
been,
personally, just following you personally. Like what?
yeah, and I she was there and I never knew it. I'm like, I'm gonna go back and look at you where you on my Instagram and give you a hi back. But it's
Nice.
it's been like the dreams unfolding into reality. And it's been a beautiful process to watch that come true.
Nice. Okay. So looking back, excuse me, how have these decisions shaped the leader and the woman you are today? And in what ways has building Girl Power Talk become a continuation of that 13-year-old girl's first stand?
I would say a very beautiful question, Frankie. Thank you for asking. That makes me, pause, think about it. But that 13-year-olds still have to be dependent on others. Even if I wanted to take my decisions, I couldn't. I was financially, emotionally, legally dependent on my parents, my guardians, other people around my life. That 13-year-old girl now has freedom to make all the decisions she wants, independently. And that this journey has like shaped me into a leader who's resilient, who's, I would say, who understands that, not every time a woman is that like not every time a woman puts her feet down, she's being bossy. There's a difference between being aggressive,
Right.
especially when it's in terms of, a male leadership and female leadership. And I've learned to accept that if I am at times being considered bossy, it's not me. It's just people have very different expectations from women in leadership roles, and I am not going to mold to fit in their boxes and their stereotypical understanding of how a female leader should be, but rather be my true self. But at the same time, the process has made me to be kinder and calmer. Because I always say when I was younger, I worked with a lot of women who were, victims of assault, and that made me, in a way, a person who started believing less in the good out there. Because,
Mm,
how can you see these young women suffering and
yeah.
being in pain, and somebody causes that intentionally? Like, and how are you going to justify that? Oh, all human beings are good, and there's good inside everybody. But through this process, incredible women, men, people of all gender that I've met, I've come to realize that there is still goodness that we can, hang on to, the people who want to bring that change, and having a community that believes in fighting social injustice and helping in being true allies. So this journey has really made me, a bit more calm and a bit more kind to both myself and to others.
That's nice. And you've grown a little bit too. You're a little bit older.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so what would you say to women or a woman who feels constrained by tradition, expectation, fear, who knows something is unjust but is afraid to challenge it? What do you tell her?
I would say life is too short to stay quiet. And I also believe and I understand it's not straightforward. There are too many layers to it, and I cannot just say that sometimes it's that you can do things, because not everybody can do things. But I also believe the easiest thing to do is to blame and regret. If you are going to blame that this is not right, system shouldn't be like this, people, men shouldn't be treating women like that. But if you go in your own house and you see male members in your family treating female members and you don't raise a voice, you're wrong. I always tell people, do not go outside and start fighting the world unless you've started fighting at your own home, because
Mm.
apparently that's the safest space you have. And that's where people are most fearful, Frankie. I've 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 talked to like so many women out there who would go out and do protests, and like will be out there in rallies and will be out there for injustice, but they wouldn't fight small things at their own home. If their parents say you cannot stay outside after 9, they won't. If you cannot do a job in another city, they won't. So I want to say that even though we believe we are doing a lot and we're fighting injustice, if we can't do that at home, it's hypocrisy. You have to put your foot down, and maybe then you receive a no, and then you receive a yes. Then how do you proceed is different thing.
Yes,
But you have to start raising your own voice at home, and be financially free. If you're financially independent,
yes,
there is nobody who can put you under their thumb and say this is something you can do, this is something you can't do. Because once you have your own money, and again, women for centuries have fought for this, for have voting rights, education rights, earning rights. So you better use that in the modern world where you have access to resources, where you can make your own money. And that's going to help you actually be a bolder version of yourself and take decisions, because you don't have to rely on somebody else to feed you.
thank you for saying that. I appreciate that so much. You have no idea. Rachita Sharma, thank you so much for joining us. This has been
Thank
a
you,
Gutsy
Frankie.
Six interview expanded, a G Woman Media original for the gifted genius, a game changer woman in you.